Oh, that is absolutely top tier. 40. Yep, right on the money. A little racket shake there from your strength. Devriok is flying on the court. Andrescu gets the break again for the fourth time in this match. Whoa, that's something we have not seen before. Into the top 50 earlier this year, after she finished as the runner-up indoors at Linz with no wind. All right, watch out. Those can be seriously tricky. Okay, people. Oh my goodness, that's just incredible. 13. That one definitely finds its target. An unbelievable shot from that backhand, isn't it? That was actually the last time she lost a set 6-1. In fact, she won it back in January. All right, let's hit play. We are back in the absolute heart of all the tennis madness, and I am just buzzing with energy, ready to break down everything that just happened at the 2026 BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells. This oasis in the desert just saw something that has the whole Women's Tennis Association in a complete frenzy. If you thought the scorching March heat in California was a lot, just wait till I tell you about the absolute fireworks that went off on these hard courts today. What we just watched was a round of 64 clash that had everyone from casual viewers to veteran commentators totally locked in on their screens. This was not your average run-of-the-mill early round match. This was straight-up Grand Slam level, drama happening way sooner than anyone could have predicted at this WTA 1000 event. I'm talking about the Philippines' own rising star Alexandra Eala, going head-to-head with Ukraine's formidable powerhouse Dayana Yastremska. Right now, the entire tennis world is just in shock. And to be honest, the whole outlook for this sunshine swing just got flipped completely on its head. So let me set the stage and explain why this particular match has got everybody buzzing. We have to pull back a bit and really understand who these two amazing athletes are at this moment. Let's rewind the clock exactly 12 months to see where Alexandra Eala was putting in the work. This Filipino phenom was hovering around 140th in the world rankings. She was grinding it out in ITF events, dominating W75 tournaments, and fighting hard to turn her incredible junior career into legitimate professional success on the main tour. And then something just totally clicked into place. This past year has been a total transformation, taking her from a relative unknown to a true global superstar. Her meteoric rise up the rankings featured a jaw-dropping run to the Miami Open semi-finals as a wildcard, where she just dismantled Grand Slam champions like Iga Świątek and Madison Keys. She captured her very first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. She fought her way to her first ever WTA Tour final on the grass courts of Eastbourne. She didn't just break through the top 100, she smashed through the top 50 and came into this Coachella Valley battle, sitting comfortably at a career-high world ranking of 31. That ranking is a massive deal. She has officially made history as the highest-ranked tennis player ever to come out of the Philippines. And she's backed by this incredibly passionate international fan base that turns every single stadium into her own personal cheering section. Coming right off an amazing quarterfinal run in Dubai, where she challenged top players like Jasmine Paolini before finally losing to Coco Gauff. Eala arrived at Indian Wells as a seeded player in a WTA 1000 tournament for the very first time in her career. Her ranking scored her a valuable first-round bye, setting the stage for this highly anticipated round of 64 debut. On the other side of the court, ready for this explosive second-round clash, was Ukraine's Dayana Yastremska. For anyone who follows the WTA Tour, the kind of firepower Yastremska brings to the court is no secret. She's a former world number 21, with 3 WTA titles to her name, and is fully capable of playing some of the most punishing, aggressive tennis you will ever see. Everyone remembers her incredible heroic run to the semi-finals at the 2024 Australian Open, where she entered as a qualifier and just steamrolled the competition. She proved to the world that when she's on her baseline game, is powerful enough to overwhelm any opponent. Yastremska has fought through some unbelievable adversity, both in her career and personal life, yet she continues to be one of any tournament's most dangerous unseeded players. Entering this match with a world ranking of 52nd, she had already dispatched the tricky veteran Zhang Shuai in the first round, which showed she was finding her groove and adjusting to the notoriously difficult, high-bouncing courts at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. And that's what led us to this moment. The raw, overwhelming power of Dayana Yastremska was on a collision course with Alexandra Eala's sophisticated and rapidly evolving all-court game. For Eala, the pressure was at an all-time high. This match was her chance to prove that her new top 32 ranking wasn't a fluke, but where she truly belonged. She was dealing with enormous expectations, carrying the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders, not to mention the huge target that was now on her back as a seeded player. On the other hand, Yastremska saw a golden opportunity to score a major upset, to assert her dominance over the next generation of talent, and to punch her way through a killer part of the bracket. And speaking of the draw, the stakes of this matchup were even higher than they looked, because looming in the third round for the winner of this war was a potential slugfest with American powerhouse and fan favourite Coco Gauff, who was ranked number 4 in the world. The storylines here are just off the charts. If Eala could get through, it would set up a massive, eagerly awaited rematch of their recent quarterfinal battle in Dubai. All the buzz, the high hopes, and the media storm around this part of the draw had hit a boiling point. From the moment they walked onto the court, the energy at Indian Wells was absolutely electric. Fans from the Philippines waving flags and chanting her name filled every single seat in the stands. It created an atmosphere that felt less like a second-round tennis match and more like a championship soccer final. Yeah, Yastremska, steely-eyed and locked in, looked determined to spoil the party and enforce her powerful, aggressive style of play. You could practically feel the tension hanging in the desert air. This was more than just a tennis match. This was a battle for survival between two incredible WTA warriors from different generations happening on one of the biggest stages in the sport. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this amazing match actually unfolded and explore the tactics that made it so compelling. When you really look at the matchup between Alexandra Eala and Dayana Yastremska, what you're seeing is a fascinating contrast in styles when it comes to court positioning and how they build points. And to truly get why the tennis world was so hyped for this match, first you have to understand the unique challenge of playing at Indian Wells. The courts at the BNP Paribas Open are known for being unlike anything else on the tour. What makes these plexipave hard courts so famous is their gritty texture, which strips a ton of speed off the ball and causes an incredibly high bounce, especially during those blistering hot daytime matches. The thin, dry air makes the ball seem to fly at first, but the moment it hits that surface, it just grips and slows right down. This creates the perfect scenario for players who love to construct points piece by piece, generate their own power, and use massive topspin to shove opponents way behind the baseline. So for a left-handed player such as Alexandra Eala, who really developed her game training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, these courts are basically a dream come true for her style. Ella's signature weapon, that monster looping lefty forehand, is perfectly suited for the gritty surface here at Indian Wells. She can use that topspin to yank right-handed players way out wide, blowing the ad court wide open and setting up some unbelievable angles. And just in this last year alone, Aya has added some serious weight and depth to her ground strokes. She has gone from a player who just defends to one who is now calling the shots in rallies. While she was getting ready for this tournament, practicing with experienced pros like Laura Siegemund and rising talents like Sloane Stephens, it was obvious Aya was focused on her court positioning. Siegemund, renowned for her amazing doubles career and sharp tennis mind, surely passed along some vital tips on how to play on these slow, hard courts, hammering home how crucial it is to press forward and finish points at the net when the opportunity arises. We saw Ella execute that game plan flawlessly. Her knack for absorbing all that incoming power and just blasting it back down the line is fast becoming one of the most formidable weapons in all of women's tennis. On the other side of the net, Dayana Yastremska presents a whole different kind of problem. Yastremska's game is all about pure first-strike hyper-aggressive tennis. Her whole strategy revolves around hitting her ground strokes flat and taking the ball super early to take time away from her opponents. Her two-handed backhand turns into a lethal shot when she's set and balanced, and she's built her return game to immediately pressure the server. The thing is, these slow courts at Indian Wells can really take the sting out of a flat hitter's game like Yastremska's. If she isn't connecting cleanly and hitting through the court, that sandy surface will scrub off just enough speed for a quick, instinctive player like Ella to chase the ball down and reset the point. The mental side of this match was a huge, huge factor. Ella walked on court holding a psychological edge because she had beaten Yastremska in the only other match they'd played. That was a decisive straight sets win in the Eastbourne quarterfinals on grass back in June of 2025. Now, grass is a completely different animal compared to these slow, high-bouncing courts in California. Grass usually favors players who hit flat, but Ella still managed to neutralize Yastremska's power even on that surface, taking the match 6-2, 6-1. Just knowing she had handled the Ukrainian so easily on a court that in theory should have been better for her opponent must have given the 20-year-old Filipina an incredible amount of confidence coming onto a surface that plays even more into her own strengths. But you can't count Yastremska out. She is an absolute warrior. You just don't get to the semi-finals of the Australian Open if you don't have world-class mental fortitude and a deep well of resilience to draw from. She knew the key to beating Eala was to completely throw off her rhythm. There was no way she could let Eala find her groove and start dictating points with that huge lefty cross-court forehand. Yastremska's game plan had to be built around attacking relentlessly from the very first shot, specifically hammering Eala's backhand and taking advantage of Eala's deep position by stepping in on second serves and mixing in drop shots. When Yastremska puts it all together like that, she looks absolutely unbeatable. She's hitting clean winners from spots on the court where most players are just fighting to stay in the point. Now, the real story behind AA's recent climb into the top 30 is her newfound mental toughness and unbelievable ability to scramble on defense. At the Dubai Tennis Championships last month, when she pulled off that stunning upset against the then world number 8, Jasmine Paolini, Eala showed everyone she could weather any storm. Even when her opponents are playing lights out and hitting 3 winners in a row, Eala doesn't fall apart anymore. She just resets, relies on her fitness, and makes her opponents hit one extra ball. And against a high-risk, high-reward player like Yastremska, making them go for that extra shot is often what separates a perfect winner from a simple mistake. Eala's lateral movement has gotten so much better. She slides into her open stance backhand just like a clay court pro, soaking up all of Yastremska's power and sending back deep shots that completely reset the point. And you absolutely have to talk about the crowd. It's become a huge part of the whole Eala experience on the WTA Tour. The Filipino community all over the world is huge, passionate, and 100% behind her. In Dubai, the stadium court for her match with Coco Gall was a sea of screaming fans waving Philippine flags. Gall herself even admitted how electric the atmosphere was, saying how tough it is to play against someone when the whole stadium is pulling for them to win. Here at Indian Wells, which is known for its massive crowds and incredible energy, the vibe was just as intense. Earlier this week, Practice Court 6 was standing room only just for her warm-ups. So by the time she stepped onto the court for this round of 64 match, the crowd was an absolute frenzy of support. For any 20-year-old, that kind of adoration could be totally overwhelming. It brings a ton of pressure and expectation, but Eala just seems to thrive on that energy. She takes all that support and uses it to keep her feet moving when her legs get tired in those long rallies. For Yastremska, on the other hand, it meant she wasn't just playing against a phenomenal athlete, but also against a really loud crowd which demands a level of tunnel vision that's mentally exhausting to keep up. This match turned into a total masterclass of different styles and sheer willpower. It was the perfect example of why women's tennis is so unbelievably exciting at the moment. You've got your established champions, your reigning title holders, and then this fearless new generation that isn't intimidated at all by the big names on the other side of the net. Eala represents a huge shift not just for herself, but for the entire sport of tennis across all of Southeast Asia. Like she pointed out herself recently, the fact that players from Indonesia and Thailand are rising up right alongside her just shows how much stronger the whole region is getting. And Eala is right at the forefront of that entire movement. She's living proof that a world-class champion can come from literally anywhere as long as they have the raw talent, a solid support system, and an insane work ethic. What was at stake in this one Indian Wells match went way beyond ranking points and prize money. The winner punched their ticket to the main stadium court for a massive showdown with American Grand Slam champion Coco Gauff. A potential third-round battle between Eala and Gauff is the absolute dream matchup for the tournament organizers, the broadcasters, and all the marketing folks. It's a glimpse into the future of the sport. You've got two incredibly talented, extremely marketable, and fiercely competitive young athletes ready to battle it out in tennis paradise. But getting to that point meant surviving this absolute pressure cooker in the round of 64. Yastremska was out to prove she's still a dominant force. Eala wanted to show that her top 30 ranking is just one more step on her way to the top 10. The brilliant strategy, the booming ground strokes, and the dramatic momentum swings delivered every single thing that makes tennis the greatest sport on the planet. So as we wrap up our complete breakdown of one of 2026's most surprising and anticipated WTA matchups, you can't help but step back and just be amazed by the state of women's tennis right now. This BNP Paribas Open clash between Alexandra Eala and Dayana Yastremska was a perfect showcase of why we're all so obsessed. It was a classic contrast in styles. You had the pure, devastating power from the veteran Ukrainian champion smashing up against the brilliant strategy, unbelievable court coverage, and the rock-solid determination from the baseline of the Philippines' greatest ever tennis player. As the dust settles here in the California desert this week, one thing has become undeniable. Alexandra Eala is the real deal. She's not just a promising up-and-comer anymore. She's no longer just a lucky wildcard, and she is definitely not sneaking up on anyone. She is a legitimate top-tier threat walking into these WTA 1000 main draws with the poise of a 10-year veteran. The fact that she is handling the incredible pressure of her high ranking, the massive expectations from a dedicated fan base all over the world, and the brutal physical grind of the Pro Tour at only 20 years old is truly something special. Looking ahead, this tournament is only going to get more intense from this point on. The slow, gritty courts of Indian Wells will keep on testing the physical and mental toughness of every player left. If we actually get that mouth-watering third-round collision with Coco Gauff, we are about to see something truly historic. Gauff, the dominant force in American tennis with multiple Grand Slam titles, will be looking to repeat the kind of dominant performance she had in Dubai. But you can't underestimate Eala for a second. She's an incredibly quick study who learns from her losses, adjusts her game plan, and comes back even stronger. Every match she plays at this elite level adds another vital piece of experience to her growing tactical playbook. For Dayana Yastremska, her journey is far from over, and she has enormous potential. With her kind of massive firepower, she will always be a dangerous opponent on any given day. Has what it takes to tear through the bracket and take down the biggest names in the sport. But enough from me, I want to know what all of you are thinking. How did you see the brilliant strategic changes that happened during this match? Do you feel like Alexandra Aya truly has the well-rounded game required to take on stars like Coco Gauff and ultimately crack the WTA top 10 before the year is over? Or do you think the veteran power hitters like Yosta will find a way to break down this younger generation? Let me know what you think. Share your own strategic breakdowns and post your predictions for the rest of the Indian Wells tournament in the comments. I genuinely go through every single one of your comments. And I absolutely love seeing the conversation spark up in this incredible tennis family. If this in-depth breakdown was valuable to you, please go ahead and hit that like button. It makes a huge difference in growing the channel and helps us keep creating this kind of detailed content. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you're always in the loop as we cover all the surprising turns, major upsets and championship pushes throughout this amazing 2026 tennis season. We are going to be covering the Sunshine Double from start to finish, right from the finals at Indian Wells through the highly anticipated Miami Open, which gets underway next week. Thanks again for tuning in and for all of your fantastic and continuous support, and for being just as passionate as I am about the greatest sport on earth.